Hey guys, it's Chris. From a real-life story of the fox and the hound to lions and tigers and bears getting rescued from a drug dealer, here are 12 amazing animal friendships. Number 12. Mable and Her Puppies. At one point in time, the chicken known as Mable was meant to have a rather cruel fate. You can probably guess, but just in case it wasn't clear, she was going to be killed and cooked up. And then an injury occurred that prevented that. So her owner decided to take the chicken to live with him. And when she was brought into the house, she found herself looking at a set of puppies. So motherly hen instincts kicked in. Mable took the puppies under her wing in a quite literal sense. She would roost with them like she would young chicks and eggs to try and protect them and keep them warm. And in case you're curious, the puppy's mother was very much alive. The difference is that the mother, known as Nettle, preferred to be outside on the farm hanging out with the humans and to be out in the action. So Mable took this as an opportunity to basically adopt the pups. One of the owners said Nettle was a bit startled to say the least, but she didn't mind too much eventually. She's happy to have a helping pair of wings. You know what they say, takes a village. Number 11. Fred and Dennis. When it came to Dennis the Duckling, there's no doubt that the young duck was in a really bad place before it met its soon-to-be best friend. Dennis was just a young duck in the wild when its mother had gotten killed by a fox. The fox didn't go after Dennis, and this left the duckling alone to fend for itself. Which at the age it probably was not going to do well. Enter Fred the Labrador and his owner Jeremy Goldsmith. The two were in the area when they came across the young duckling, and somewhat surprisingly for Goldsmith, not only did Fred take a liking to the duck, he started to clean the duck with his tongue. Wait, labs are supposed to be hunting these things, aren't they? Or maybe just bringing them back by the neck? Realizing the friendship that had been born, Goldsmith took Dennis the Duckling home with him and Fred, and the friendship blossomed from there. Despite their size difference, they're quite compatible as friends, including playing with each other in the yard and even going swimming together. What's more, the two are so inseparable that Dennis will follow Fred no matter where he goes, and they'll cuddle together at night. It's amazing to see the two of them together. When we found Dennis, he was quite frail, and he clearly would not have survived another day on his own, noted the owner. Dennis snuggles up to Fred at night. He'll clamber up on top of him, and they even go swimming together. But Fred is a lot less graceful in the water. Number 10. Torque and SHREK. Torque is a female greyhound and one of the fastest kinds of dogs in the modern world. Yet despite their large size and speed, one day Torque came across a baby owl, later named SHREK, at the Ringwood Raptor and Reptile Center in New Hampshire, and for whatever reason became its friend. Apparently, SHREK was taken away from its mother for its own protection. The keepers noted that their mother would abuse SHREK when stressed, so thus they removed the baby owl from the situation. The friendship between Torque and SHREK wasn't planned, far from it. What happened was that the falconer that was training SHREK would feed the owl with Torque in the room. Occasionally, the owl would sniff the dog, but within the span of a few days, Torque had basically adopted the owl as her own pup. Now Torque not only plays with SHREK, but she protects the owl like it's truly one of her own, especially when they go outside to play. When it's time for them to relax, the two will lodge themselves on the couch of their owner, who works at the center, and cuddle with one another. Their relationship is so unusual, but also rather sweet, their owner says. Number 9. Bubbles and Bella. Oftentimes, it's rare and unusual circumstances that bring animals together in a friendship capacity. And that's what happened with the elephant known as Bubbles and the black Labrador known as Bella. Their friendship was forged at the Myrtle Beach Safari in South Carolina, which is curious because Bubbles is from Africa. The park and safari rescued the elephant during the rampant killing of elephants in Africa for their ivory. She was saved from the Ivory Coast after her parents were killed by poachers. Bubbles was one of only a handful that were truly saved because other facilities couldn't or wouldn't house them. Back to Bubbles, when she arrived, she was just a young elephant, at about 42 inches tall and 340 pounds. That's when she met Bella, who was a dog that was left at the safari by a former contractor. How they met is unclear, but they did interact. And they've been hanging out ever since. Even when Bubbles became a 9-foot-tall elephant, they're such pals that Bella will ride on Bubbles' back as the elephant goes into the water, and Bella will jump off the elephant to make a splash. And as one of the keepers in the safari notes, today they're almost inseparable. Number 8. BALOO, Shere Khan, and Leo. At first, these names likely remind you of Disney characters, But they are in fact a bear, a tiger, and a lion that came together as a family in the most unlikely of ways. So how does their story begin? With a drug dealer of all things. A dealer had gotten these 3 animals and attempted to raise them in his compound, since, it's kind of cool, I guess. But after he failed to take care of the creatures as he should have, they suffered as a result. They were in a very bad condition, and in 2001, the Noah's Ark Sanctuary were able to rescue all 3 and bring them to Locust Grove, Georgia, where they could be taken care of properly. Usually these animals would be separated as they're not the kind to interact in nature. But upon rescuing them, they realized that the 3 had bonded in a special way and kept each other alive during their captivity days. They decided to keep the unlikely trio together and refused to separate this family. The story of these 3 grew so popular that when new zoo regulations, in this case the height of fences in big cat containment areas, threatened to separate them, the zoo and people all over donated money so that new fences could be built. They got the money needed, and the 3 unlikely family members were able to stay together. Number 7. Peanut and RANJ. When you think about cats and rats, you're no doubt picturing a cat chasing a rat and killing it for food or sport. But for Peanut the rat and RANJ the cat, that's not what happened, much to the surprise of their owner. You see, the owner of these pets had RANJ first, and then one day she came home with not 1 adopted rat but 2, and she was afraid of how her cat would react. Only to witness one of the rats wanting to be next to the cat and was friendly with it, and that was Peanut. Peanut always wanted to be around RANJ, and she took a real liking to him, their owner, Maggie Szpot of Cedarburg, Wisconsin, told ABC News. She would always want to play with him, snuggle up to his fur, and she even ate cat kibble from his bowl along with him. While the second rat, Mocha, didn't care too much for RANJ, Peanut adored the cat, and according to Szpot, the 2 were best of friends for the next few years, even getting multiple pictures taken together to show just how close they were. Number 6. JOEJOE the capybara and friends. Based on what is actually going on here, you could be forgiven for thinking this is a cartoon show for children, as this is the story of a capybara known as JOEJOE and the animal friends that he had in the world. For those who don't know, a capybara is a mammal that's native to South America. What's more, it's the largest rodent in the world today. So much so that it can reach 2 feet in height, and as an adult can weigh up to 150 pounds at times. However, despite its mass, the capybara is known for being a very lax creature, even being an exotic pet for some. Yet for the animal kingdom, the capybara is known to make many friends, and basically let them do whatever they want as long as they don't hurt them. JOEJOE the capybara is the best example of this kind of friendship, as there are numerous videos and social media posts of him interacting with cats, dogs, ducklings, and more, and he doesn't seem to mind one bit. Because of these amazing friendships, JOEJOE has multiple social media pages dedicated just to him and his animal interactions, making him the most popular capybara in the world. Number 5. Juniper the fox and Moose the dog. There's a classic Disney story about a fox and a hound that became best friends and were loyal to each other throughout much of their life. And in real life, there is a fox known as Juniper, who's become best friends with an Australian mixed dog known as Moose. This friendship started out very atypically, as the owner of Juniper, a woman named Jessica, adopted the fox at only 5 weeks old and turned the fox into a social media star on Instagram. Later on, Juniper met Moose around where they live and fell in love. Juniper is in love with Moose and spends all day trying to get as much of his attention as possible, her mom Jessica told Bored Panda in an interview. I brought Juniper home when she was only 5 weeks old. Moose was raised around all kinds of animals, so when she ran up to him, tail wagging and crying, they were instantly friends. She's so in love with Moose that she tries to stake her claim to the dog every day by sitting on him, which is what foxes do in the wild, in order to show others what's theirs. The two are quite the odd couple, and social media loves that, as pictures of them together interacting get all sorts of attention. Number 4. Strong Impact and Charlie. Believe it or not, animals in the wild, as well as captivity, sometimes make friendships with other animals in order to keep them calm, almost like a support animal. Such is the case with the horse known as Strong Impact. A racehorse for many years, Strong Impact was a thoroughbred, and yet despite its upbringing, meaning it was raised to be a very pure horse, it made a friend in the most unlikely of places, with a pig named Charlie. While this may seem like an odd couple, it's not as atypical as you would likely expect. as sometimes high-strung horses like Strong Impact don't want other horses as companions. Sometimes smaller ponies are brought in to help out, but for Strong Impact, he appreciates Charlie so much that they're likened to an old married couple, even acting differently when Charlie isn't around. The horse worries when Charlie isn't in the stall, said Andres Garcia, the day watchman for Strong Impact and the other horses trained by Bruce Brown at Belmont. It just goes to show that the animal kingdom is capable of any kind of friendship. Number 3. Anthony and Riley. The idea of a lion and a coyote being best friends is very odd, mainly because one is an apex predator of their environment and the other is often a scavenger. But in the case of Anthony the lion and Riley the coyote, there's more than meets the eye here. Because unlike animals who meet in the wild, Anthony and Riley met when they were merely 1 year old. They were rescued animals via keepers of the wild and were brought to a sanctuary to live. After being introduced, they took a liking to one another, and that didn't stop as they grew older. They were so charming that PBS put them on their show PBS Nature via Animal Odd Couple and showed how they would play with one another, groom their best friend, and even stand guard over the other while they slept to ensure that nothing happened to their best friend. Even when Anthony towered over Riley, it didn't stop their friendship, and it lasted until Anthony sadly died. Number 2. Simon and Leonardo. If the story of Simon the cow and Leonardo the tortoise is any indication, then animals of any kind can make a special friendship even under the worst of circumstances. This particular circumstance starts with the cow known as Simon, who lost a part of his hind leg, and as a result was rescued and brought to the WFTT Wildlife Rescue Center. The people at the rescue center had a very simple plan for Simon. They were going to put him in a large field to heal, and then eventually be moved to an area with other cows. However, Simon instead met a tortoise named Leonardo that lived in the field, and the two became inseparable, to the extent that they would live together permanently after the rescue workers noticed their friendship. While this may seem to be a one-sided relationship via the nature of tortoise, Leonardo doesn't mind at all when Simon nuzzles him, or when the cow goes to sleep and rests its head on Leonardo's shell. Everywhere Leonardo goes, Simon follows. And that's the very definition of a good friend. Number 1. Jamie the rhino and Joey the lamb. There's a rhino orphanage in South Africa that takes on many of the species for various reasons. And eventually they got a young rhino by the name of Jamie. The problem with Jamie was that she was too young and small to be put in with the other rhino, so she had to be separated from the rest of the pack. However, this turned out to be a blessing when she met Joey, a young lamb who was at the orphanage because his mother abandoned him. The two bonded and are now best friends. Sheep and goats are often used as companion animals, so it was fitting that Joey would be the perfect companion for Jamie, says a post from the orphanage. They're so connected that they'll go on walks with one another, eat from the same trough, and of course, bond enough for many pictures to be taken. Well, thanks for watching. What did you think of these unusual animal friendships? Which one stands out the most to you? Which one is the most adorable to you? Do you know of any other animal friendships that should have been on the list? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe to World List, and I'll see you next time on the channel.